At this time, I call the Neighborhood Jobs and Housing Committee to order, and I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Councilmember Leslie Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Lupian. Vice President Harris.
Here.
President Melendez.
Here.
Councilmember Lupian just expressed that she's going to be a few minutes behind.
Okay, great. Well, we have one presentation, and that is going to be from Dr. Hester. And Dr. Hester, if you could step up to the microphone. And is the microphone on, folks? Be sure the microphone's ready for Dr. Hester. Doesn't sound like. Press the button. Is it green?
It's not green.
Is it working?
Testing.
Joe.
Testing. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect.
All right. So Dr. Hester, if you can give us the what your topic is, and then you can just get right to it. And then when we get done, we'll just go down the line. Anybody who's got questions for Dr. Hester is free to answer them. We'll just take them. We'll start at the far end with Councilmember Gruber, and we'll just come on down the line.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm actually going to get into that. I wrote something. I'm going to read what I wrote because I need to read what I wrote. But now I would say just start this and say, before any of this, I'm just a Rochesterian. I grew up here. Grew up in Van Acker. I shouldn't have to be here, but I'm here. So because of that, I'm going to just do what God asked me to do and leave. So good afternoon, council members. Before I begin, I just want to acknowledge something. We're all experiencing a lot right now. You're taking in many opportunities. You're hearing about crises, programs, and challenges all at the same time. Because of this, it's oftentimes easy to tune things out. But when everything feels so urgent, it becomes very difficult to know where do you put your attention. So you're going to lean back. You're going to get into what I'm going to say, and I'm going to talk about funding. I'm going to talk about how you're going to bring the money to your neighborhood. So don't worry, I'm going to get to the bag. That's what I'm here for. But before I get into this opportunity, I just want to ground you in who I am and why I'm actually here. My name is Dr. Brandy Hester. I am a Rochesterian. I have attended school number 4, George Mather Forest. I'm an alumni of St. John Fisher. I am also proud of today's students, tomorrow's teachers. It was a program that was created to get young people into education. I probably wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for this program. I became an educator because my 4th grade teacher changed my life. When my mom passed away, my teacher stepped in. They made sure that this trajectory would change my life. They knew that I often slept in school because I was bored. They have no curriculum for kids like me. I'm 4 grade levels above. I'm up 4 grade levels above. What you doing? Often nothing. But education showed me that you can show up differently. I have been a teacher, a proud teacher. I was a para first, then I was a teacher. I have worked as a principal proudly across this nation as well as internationally. I work with all of the failing schools in America, so I understand the grave disaster of where we are. No problem. But I realized that as I was doing this work, that I had to go beyond the classroom, and I had to move into policy, economic mobility, and emerging industries as a creative way to find the opportunity to save my own community. You understand what the pandemic is? Because we all felt it. Oftentimes, the pandemic is the one part where we get lost. A pandemic is a crisis that spreads rapidly and disrupts multiple systems at the same time. When we experienced COVID, we all understood what it meant to disrupt schools, healthcare systems, workplace, and everyday life. And what we're experiencing in Rochester is different. What we're experiencing is long-standing epidemics. A series of epidemics that have been unfolding across generations. An epidemic that we have now seen the harm of patterns of large communities over time. Just look outside. We are the 3rd generations that y'all was fighting for. We are the ones that did exactly what y'all told us to do. So these functions are quite confusing to me when I look at my nieces and nephews and the next generation before me. I wondered to myself, how do you have a conversation that's so deep and make it about people and not money? Well, I went what I know best, education. I put the New York State English Language Arts exams for 8th grade in the City School District of Rochester. 1,333 students was tested. Only 208 of them met a level 3, and only 69 of them were at level 4. That means only 200 And 77 students out of 1,300 students were considered proficient in reading and writing. As an educator, if you don't know what that means, you can only grow one grade level every year, and that's with the best conditions. Now our children are under a different condition. Currently, we know that over 1,000 of our students are currently reading below proficiency. I pulled the data for the last 10 years. I'll send you a document when I'm done so you can see all of the sources, so you can actually take a moment and see the thousands of children who are now illiterate in our community. I am Black first, because when I enter the room, that is what you see. Because I'm Black does not mean that I am choosing me over anyone. But what I will say, to know every 7 minutes a Black kid is deemed illiterate in this country, I cannot unknow that. I just want to say that even though these things feel startling, I want to just say I'm not placing blame on anyone in the room, the organizations, and the work of the community, because every day everyone is showing up to lead, and to lead is difficult. We're doing extraordinary work every single day to support family, young people, and neighborhoods. So I do want to say thank you. But have you ever heard that sometimes you have to do something different? I'm asking us to build more capacity. I'm asking us to think differently. I'm asking us to explore new opportunities to expand the work, because the next generation is depending on us to do something different. What we're doing is not working. In 2021, New York State passed the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act. If you don't know what's MRTA, I'm saying this because not everybody knows the same things. As of today, cannabis was legal December of 2022. As of right now, we have brought in $2.5 billion of revenue from sales of cannabis in this state. Over $360 million in state tax revenue. And as the industry is still new, I know, I've been here before it was even started, trying to convince us to even have a conversation, because we was even further behind to even be prepared. Trust me, I'm doing the work. They're estimating that this will be a $4.6 billion industry by 2028. I settled this to say this: 40% of the tax revenue goes back to the actual community for community reinvestment. 40% of it goes back to education, and the other 20% of it goes back to public health. So the first round of funding, $5 million of that was actually put out into the community. They came in, and when I say they, I'm talking about the Office of Cannabis Management through New York State. They came in and they did a presentation to help people, to specifically nonprofits, to get the community reinvestment money. In Rochester, $400,000 was allocated for our region. So I do want to acknowledge that. The Urban League received money to be able to do mental health program and therapy for children. We're grateful. The United Way of Rochester and Finger Lakes supported CNA and workforce pathways. Hope 585 had a housing assistant and case management for low income and young people aging out of foster care, so it was 16 to 24. And the last one was the Center for Youth received $100,000 for runaway and homeless youth. I wanted to tell you because it's easier when you could put a face to somebody. These people received the money in our actual community. Well, there's now $25 million coming out in 2026. And that leads me to why I'm here today. There was original training scheduled in Rochester, New York, with the Office of Cannabis Management to do something with nonprofits specifically about how do you prepare for this. However, the enrollment is consistently low. I would say that sometimes biases can often impact how somebody can receive money. And as a leader, it is our job to educate, to dispel, because we need the tax revenue. $100,000 can only impact 50 kids at one time. We need over $27,000 just to do, I'm talking about tutoring, for every student. So the money is critical. They have been to every area but ours. I'm exhausted. I worked 4 years nonstop. I did not expect coming home would feel like this. I thought it would feel like an interconnected, woven space for us to move together. We have over 3,000 nonprofits registered in the city of Rochester, so I know that people need money. Nonprofits come because nonprofits are community-based organizations designed to do the work. And take cannabis out, the work is the children. The work is the future. So anything outside of that does not make sense to me. I am asking that we create clear transparency, that we are able to, if I'm sending an email like, can you put this on whatever, it is an instant, this could go out to whatever nonprofit shall know, because our community deserves. I am grateful for leaders who have been doing the work, but there are businesses and organizations who are new, who need access to funding, but they don't have access to the resources, and they are in your neighborhoods, in your communities, and serving your constituents. The money is coming, and we are not prepared. I have worked with multiple organizations, and I am telling you, they are not prepared to receive the money. So if that is the truth, and you know that we as a city do not have the money to fund the programs, how do we step back and say, how do we make sure we don't miss the money? Because our children can't miss another moment. Because I am tired, I ask myself, Patterson would tell you, I was like, should I just walk away from it all? But then I speak to my own nieces and nephews and little cousins, and I'm like, wow, they went to these schools. They really can't read. I really can't hire them. This ain't somebody else. I could look at my own bloodline. And many of the families in Rochester are multiple generations of the same family. So my only ask is that in 2 generations from now, they could say we made a different choice. We chose education. We chose prioritizing community activism in a way that is honoring the next generation to move forward. My hope is that we can do this collectively. I hope that we can stop talking about cannabis in silos. I hope it can stop. It should be about an economic mobility. It should be about jobs. It should be about access. And we have an opportunity to be something different. I did not share this, but I am the first in the world. I just finished my research. Never thought I was going to be a superintendent. So when I look back and I finished my research actually interviewed professors across America to look at the actual curriculum of cannabis. When you see cannabis, you actually see agriculture programs. You think of growing. That's what everybody tells me when they think about academia in colleges. When you think of wine, they think of 294 jobs that were created, and they created pathways because they see it as a profession. Well, I went out and interviewed the professors across America to say, where are the deficits in curriculum and how do we move forward? Because of that, thank you, because of that, that leads us to say that we can change how kids can tell their stories about being generationally impacted by the war on drugs. They don't have to say my dad went to prison. They could say I'm actually in agriculture. I'm actually in cannabis policy. I'm actually in anthology. And I hope that that begins by us starting something small by just reinvesting in the community through education. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, Dr. Hester, always good to see you.
Thank you.
And always good to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I asked Dr. Hester here is that one of the things that this city has been doing, literally when Mayor Evans came in, he appointed a cannabis commission, and myself and Councilmember Gruber are the council representatives to it, and we've actually been at the forefront in New York State in getting the legislation out to approve businesses. But though we've been leading there, we have, through no fault of our own in many instances, because of things that were going on in New York State, been limited in what we could do here in Rochester. So the whole hope, dear colleagues, is that I'm here to put the arm on you. And President Melendez and I will be coming back to talk to you about how we're going to be putting the arm on you, as in we're going to be trying to find some money to support not just more cannabis businesses and the whole range of businesses in the city of Rochester, but to Dr. Hester's point, if there's $25 million out there that is to be reinvested in the community across New York State, we need to be very diligent and very focused in making sure that the city of Rochester gets its fair share. And so we might have to do more than we have done we will have to do more than we've done in the past because we didn't have these opportunities in the past. So that's my little editorial bit. And now we'll go down the line. Councilmember Gruber, questions, comments, or concerns?
Just thank you for your testimony and advocacy. No questions.
Thank you.
Vice President Harris.
Thank you for the data that you provided in your testimony. It was it was super helpful to paint the big picture. And if I could be of assistance with connecting you with some of the nonprofits in my district, please let me know.
Thank you. Right now, they had a virtual. So when I say they, the Office of Cannabis Management, it is not on the website anymore. It's supposed to be like a virtual training for the nonprofits. As soon as I see when the next training, right now there are trainings, but our region is not one of them. So Binghamton and Farmington is the nearest locations for nonprofits to get the grant readiness training. I have asked to do like if they could come back to Rochester and we work more collectively. We only need 22 businesses. Y'all telling me it ain't 22 nonprofits in the city who need the money? If they watch this later on, be the 22 that need it and sign up on OCM website. But I'm trying to get another one to come back to Rochester before it releases. The application is only open for 30 days. So this is where the problem often lies. By the time we find out, I'm telling, and then if your nonprofit isn't directly starting the application, it is a lengthy process. I last personally helped 17 nonprofits on the last round. It was exhausting, and I found 72 errors in the application that I had to submit to the governor and to the Office of Cannabis Management because of things that were happening with minority businesses specifically. So know that I am trying to figure out how to make it easier. We're trying to make sure the training is here, and I hope to see more diverse businesses actually a part of the conversation.
Just to follow up to that, is there any way that folks from this region can go where the other training is located?
Yeah, they can. On the website of OCM, it says events. If you go under, it's a free registration. You just hold your spot. So you are able to do that. Again, we did do a request for a virtual in a second to Rochester.
Thank you for that.
No problem.
Councilmember Leslie Smith.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I just want to be clear because you mentioned a lot. You shared a lot of information with us, and you were talking about education, the various nonprofits, and I may have missed this in your testimony, but can you explain to me your exact role, where you work, and the role that you're playing? Is it in RCSD? Is it pulling the nonprofits together?
So I actually, I work for a new project is outside of all of this. So this is my community service. Okay, don't even have time. This is community service. So I serve, I work for a new project as a program director. Prior to all of that is when I was in education. I recently switched into that role. I do not work with RS. I work in terms of working with the school district, talking to them about the programs, letting them know, pulling the data, but I don't work for the school district.
Okay, so your request to us today is really around trying to galvanize as many nonprofits who might not be aware of this. Is there a specific nonprofit type, or is it just not people with 501c3s?
I can send you the application specifically for the educational reinvestment grants.
Mm-hmm.
Just how the Urban League got it in the hospital. It doesn't have to be it does have to be a nonprofit, but I'm not sure the category. As you can see, those organizations might have the 501c3, or they might have an additional. I will be able to, I could put that in my follow-up email to you. They have the previous application that was available in the recording, so I could just hyperlink that in if you would like to look through it.
Thank you. And then just one other follow-up question, because this is community service work. Are you willing to continue to be our direct contact for this, or is there someone else that we should be sending the nonprofits to? How do we continue to work with you or others around this?
So twofold. I'm always going to be here because I'm from here. I can't walk away, unfortunately. And second, Bloom Rock does the work in Rochester, so they are doing that. And so continuing to work with organizations like Bloom Rock, I think, is a part of the work. And Bloom Rock is the one who facilitated the conversation between the OCM and has been working with the state since we even started. Before then, they was working. So that's the short answer.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, I saw Jeff and he just left. Oh, there you are. Okay, so Jeff, step up, man. Come on. So for you new council members, an initiative, there's this organization called Bloom Rock that we funded last year that's been working in this space. Dr. Hester is part of that organization, but she wanted to address this specific concern today, so that's why she was here today, to address that specific concern. Jeff and Bloom will be coming back. I think, what are we looking at, like Mayish? I think we're looking at probably May. We don't have a date yet? Okay, well, so Bloom will be coming back to make a presentation, but this is, all of this is kind of linked together with neighborhood business economic development. So that's what's going on there. But Dr. Hester really wanted to kind of hit this hard because the money's coming. The money was here. Some folks got it. There's more out there. It's coming again. We need to be ready. We ain't ready. Councilmember Lupian? Questions, comments, or concerns? Okay. President Melendez?
Yes, thank you, Chair Patterson. I just want to thank you first for your presentation today. We've been talking about our local tax revenue and what we can do with that, and I think we'll have some follow-ups on that. But what's interesting to me about this is I think that council can have an opportunity to support the work by using our individual and collective platforms to make sure that people in the community, the nonprofit space, understand what's available. I think we can all have a conversation about how do we get this message out there so that people know when the application is live, people know what the process is. There is technical support out there in the community. So however we can be allies in that space to make sure that we are, as you said, getting our fair share of resources back into this community, I'm game. And I would also say one of the challenges that we have is that nonprofits are strapped to the max in their own capacity and don't have grant writers, don't have technical support. So thinking through that, there might be some opportunity for us to try to figure out how do we make sure that we have enough applicants in the pool. If there was an opportunity to host something or co-host something and to get OCM in town, I know that there's a cannabis committee that the city has, but if council could be supportive of doing those kind of things, I'm there for it.
I just want to just flag this. I think I said it, I don't know, but if Cannabis NYC, their council, how it even became, so New York City is the only space in the whole entire state that has a dedicated office that works on cannabis. The council had first proposed it, and then the mayor ended up saying, okay, no, I'm going to write it into the budget, and that's how Cannabis NYC, we did the same thing that Cannabis NYC was doing, funded under their local, God bless you, under their local government, but they had resources. We did it with the community as the resource, like literally canvassing out in the community. So I think what watching Cannabis NYC showed me was that there can be a relationship between government and community agencies as a means to create long-term sustainability. I will tell you something that was crucial. There was like a problem with proximity and with buildings and, with trying to find property and locations for people. They had working groups where people were able to share and talk about it in their community funded through that department. Sometimes we only talk about something when it's on fire. I'm telling you about the nonprofits from the time in which they apply, they have to have SFS status. That could take up to 6 to 8 weeks. So if I'm sitting here, the reason why I urgently needed to have this, the money will probably be out in the next 70 days. So if they don't apply for the SFS in the next 45 days, it's unlikely that they will be a part of this funding cycle just off of the rip. They can't even apply because they're not in the system. There are many barriers to entry, and I think oftentimes people don't know it's a barrier until they halfway through the application and they finding it. So I do think we could serve as like more of a hub and have a working relationship, because right now we just keep thinking about getting the dispensaries open, but not like the whole actual bill in the law that says about the allocations of the money and the reinvestment.
Councilmember Martin?
Yeah, just echo my colleagues' comments. A huge thank you for your consistent work in the cannabis space, making sure marginalized voices are taken care of and making it accessible. I also want to offer my support in reaching out to nonprofit organizations, and anything I can personally do to support, I'm here, and just grateful for you, Dr. Hester, Bloomrock, Jeff, all of you. I think we're all united in a rare moment in supporting the work you all are doing.
Well, I appreciate that. I could send a draft of what you could send to nonprofits for like urgent message. If you have any that you know might be interested right now, when I send an email, just take that. You could cut and paste it literally, and it'll have, this is the website, this is where you register, because I'm concerned that if they don't come back until May, that if the money is dropping in June, that we won't be ready to receive it. So I'm not putting pressure, but if you could send it to your people,
For sure. Thank you.
Councilmember Monroe.
Thank you for this information, which I hadn't had in regards to the education grants. So certainly, I'm more than happy to reach out to different nonprofits that are doing educational pieces so we can make sure that we support getting our kids to do better in school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Again, thank you so much I learned so much in a quick 5 minutes that I did not know. I too am in support of the mission, and anything that I can do to support you guys, please let me know as well. I look forward to the information you'll send out that I can pass on to organizations that I know that may be interested. And I love your jacket, by the way.
Thank you so much. It's actually by a black woman.
And before we leave, if you could turn around and show council your jacket, because I don't know if everybody can see it. Okay.
Yeah, we actually make up the least amount of the industry, so I'm looking forward to see more women in cannabis. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, City Council.
So before we start, it's going to be a regular thing I'm going to start doing. I missed it last month. I'm going to recite the oath. We do solemnly swear or affirm that we will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that we will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of council members according to the best of our abilities. I do that for a very simple reason. In this trying time that we live in now, where we see other entities in government not doing what we swore to do, I think it's important that we repeat the duty and the responsibility. So with that, we're going to get to the work. So doctor's presentation was certainly the work. So, introductory number 64, authorizing sale of real estate. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion and a second.
Move it.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. All right, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 64, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number 65, authorizing the acquisition of a portion of 71 Mount Hope Avenue. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, need a motion and a second.
Move it. Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 65, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number 66, amending the zoning map by changing the zoning classification of 824 Genesee Street. Public hearing to be held on Thursday, March 19th at 6 p.m. Questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Gruber.
Thanks. Was this the land that for a long time was being held by Mr. Hamilton, rest in peace, and the plans to expand E&L Grocery?
Yes, it is. It's the same property that was owned by Linford Hamilton, and now that he is deceased, it is no longer planned for that use.
So his family sold the property?
Sir, wait a minute, sir. Wait 1 second. You just step back for a second.
Yes.
Step back for a second.
Yeah.
Commissioner, you want me to address the questions to, I'm assuming you're the applicant? Please. I'd be happy to hear if you want to step up. So you recently bought the property?
That's correct. I bought 2 lots for Mrs. Hamilton. Mr. Hamilton passed away.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I bought him in November of 24.
Can you give just a brief overview of what the plans are for the property if all the zoning stuff works out?
Property 824 is landlocked, which means that I would have to get permission from the city that owns the other lots around it to get easement to it. So the property that I own, the other land that I own, if I get this one amended to a C1, which the other one I own, 820 and 822, then the plan is to combine those together, and I need to get the 824 on landlocked first.
And it looks like the plan is to build housing.
That's correct, affordable housing, and just working with the real estate of the city to buy their land also. They're willing to sell once everything falls into place.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for your answers. I appreciate it. Nothing else from me, Patterson.
All right.
Councilmember Patterson.
Okay, so with there being no other questions, comments, or concerns, I need
I
a
have a
motion
question.
and a second. Oh, Councilmember Smith. Leslie Smith.
I'm sorry?
No, you're good. Yeah. Go ahead.
When you say affordable housing, tell me exactly what you mean. Are you applying for LIHTC credits? Are you just making it naturally affordable?
I'm building with my own cash, make it a national affordable, trying to put up student housing for the U of R. In that area, a lot of kids are renting out single rooms in the whole area from Brooks, Genesee, Plymouth, Jefferson Avenue. And we're going to build hopefully like a 40 unit for just their students and some kind of commercial property like a bookstore that the community also can use for internet to surf the web, search, submit applications on, apply for grants in that area.
How do you, as a private owner, reasonably make housing affordable for students in that area? There's so much. There's no affordable student housing. I live in the 19th ward.
I grew up there for 57 years, right around the corner of Stafford Park, and I got 2 rental properties on both sides of me, and they're renting their rooms out for $700-800 a room per room. And I have plans already drawn up by architect, approved by New York State, for single bedroom apartments that I can rent for $800. They have their own privacy.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, need a motion. You got a question? Yep. Councilmember Smith.
So saying that it passes, will you come back? I guess it's a question for council, corporation council. Would he have to come back and show us the plans for what he builds, or how does that work?
I'm going to defer to NBD on that, and if they don't have an answer, we'll get that to you in writing.
Thank you.
To answer that question.
Sir, wait. That wasn't for you. That was for the administration, sir.
Yeah, I can take that question. So should the zoning map amendment be successful, the applicant would have to come back to make an application to do the construction, and then we would follow the code at that point. Provided no further map or text, zoning map or zoning text amendments are needed, the project would not come back to City Council from a land use perspective.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Council Vice President?
Yeah. Did this request go before the zoning board first? And if so, what was their deliberation?
The likely first step would be the building permit application to construct, whatever the application is, X number of dwelling units with a mixed use building. We would then review, it would very likely go through what's called the site plan review process, which is an internal administrative process by which our office reviews applications, and then we would give a code compliance review for next steps, which could, to your point, Vice President, include potentially a land use board approval, or if the project meets the code as it's written, it would be able to proceed.
So we're at the first step, is that what you're saying? And then it goes to zoning?
Yeah, the very first step would be to just make the building permit application to construct the building. And then we would internally within NBD review the application for code compliance. The reason it's before City Council is strictly based on the map. So City Council has purview over the zoning map and zoning text. So in order to assemble the parcels or combine them, they would have to be in the same zoning district. So that's why this is here before council today.
Understood.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Council President?
Yes, thank you, Chair Patterson. Follow up for the applicant along the lines of what Councilmember Leslie Smith was asking. In terms of I know we're just talking about zoning right now, but in terms of the capital to actually construct and get to the project itself, I know a thing or two about that, and a 40-unit building is not a simple project. Could you maybe give us a little bit of your history just so we understand that in terms of development and opportunity to do projects like this?
I don't have any past experience. I just have the plan. I have a team. I have a crew. My beneficiary backing is down in Atlanta, which is my mother. She owns 20 McDonald's, and she's ready to retire and come back home to Rochester.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Nobody? Question? Okay. Need a motion in a second? No. I need a motion in a second. You have a question?
I just want to.
Question, Vice President? Okay.
I like the moment to explain my vote.
Sure.
I just want to say kudos to you for embarking on this and stepping forward. We do need more housing, and definitely student housing is a need. I'm going to vote no today because I need to do some more research. I live in the 19th Ward, so that's why this is very, very important to me, and I'm very heavily involved with the 19th Ward Community Association. I like to get feedback from the folks in my neighborhood about this project. So, you know, like I said, I don't want you to think that I'm not for this type of project. I just want to do some research before I cast a vote. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for your time. And it's an eyesore. Like I said, I've been there for 55 years, and nobody has done anything with that land. I know the Hamilton have tried to get a restaurant going, but he couldn't. He ran out of time. And Mrs. Hamilton, she goes to church with me on Genesee Baptist on Brooks Avenue. And I talked to her plenty of times and helped her out. And she therefore was able to sell me the land.
Thank you for that testimony, and I'll reach back out to you and follow up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Another comment, Mr. Chairman. I believe we have had 2 or 3 of these in the last 3-4 months. It feels like, whether it's C1 or C2, where it's come before us and it's a map amendment and it's.
This one's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's different. So, right. Normally I would be like, yeah, no, we don't need to do this. The only reason I'm really interested in considering this one is because the parcel is landlocked and we own it. And so nothing's going to happen. Nothing really is going to happen with this. I mean, if we don't sell it, we just own it and it just sits there. Is that correct, administration?
Chair Patterson, the parcel is privately held by the applicant who's here.
Okay.
But he owns adjacent parcel and adjacent parcel to this, and then the city owns a series of parcels adjacent to those.
But if we don't change the zoning, he can't use that parcel to develop the spot. Is that correct?
He can't use that. He would be able. It would be much easier from a development standpoint, yes, to have it assembled with the other land. Otherwise, it remains as you said, landlocked parcel that becomes kind of impracticable. Like, what do you do with that parcel of land? Whether it be this project or a future project. So in terms of assembling land for a potential development site, be it this development or be it any future development, the attractiveness in terms of the financial feasibility of doing something would be looked at. And so this gives additional depth from Genesee Street.
Okay, well, in that case, yeah, Council President, you're correct. It falls into the category of the other ones, and I'll be voting no too. So we need a motion in a, so we need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor, please say aye. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Patterson?
No.
Councilmember Leslie Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Lupien?
I will go with the district council person on this and vote no.
Vice President Harris?
No.
President Melendez?
No.
All right. The item fails. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Introductory number 67, authorizing mandatory agreements related to the housing opportunities for persons with AIDS program. This is an amazing program. We've been doing it for years. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 67, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number 68, authorize agreement and appropriating funds related to the Center City Courtyard and South Washington Street project. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 68, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number 69, authorizing the mandatory agreement related to the Rochester eviction project pilot. Questions, comments, or concerns? Yes, Councilmember Martin.
What is the reason for extending the term?
Councilmember Martin, this is our legislation, the evictions pilot. The reason requested for the extension was that they are currently trying to conduct focus groups, and they just asked for a little bit more time to be able to do that.
At this moment, can they submit a summary of the outcomes they've seen so far or provide some kind of additional update on how the program is going and the impacts?
Yeah, we can certainly ask them.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 69, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number 92, authorizing funding and agreements related to the First Genesis Single Family Housing Project. Questions, comments, or concerns from council members? Seeing none, need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 92, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. With that, I adjourn the Neighborhood Jobs and Housing Committee, and I called into order the Rural Resolution Review Committee. Clerk, please call the roll.
Agent Patterson.
Here.
Agent Leslie Smith.
Here.
Agent Lupian.
Here.
Agent Harris.
Here.
Agent Melendez.
Here.
Introductory number URA1, resolution amending the resolution number URA3 of 2024 pertaining to appointments to the Resolution Review Committee. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number URA1, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number URA2, resolution approving the Rochester Urban Renewal Agency's 2024-2025 annual report. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number URA2, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. With that, the Rural Resolution Committee stands adjourned. Thank you.
I'm sure some folks are going to be moving seats, but I'll ask the clerk to call the Budget, Finance, and Governance Committee to order, please.
Councilmember Gruber.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Vice President Harris.
Here.
President Melendez.
Here.
And let the record show we're joined by all other members of council. And we are opening up today with a brief presentation led by Director of Communications, Barbara Pierce. Specifically to hear about a series of events coming up that we're starting to be asked to approve funding for on the 50th anniversary of the city mark. So with that, I'll pass it over to Director Pierce.
Thank you, Council Member. So in November, everyone on council received a news release that outlined some of these events, but what I wanted to do today is share a little bit more context and underscore the activities that we're planning to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Rochester City Mark. There we go. So this is a citywide celebratory effort. It's been in planning since I arrived here at the city with the Evans administration. We've been talking about this because we saw this coming. We've invested time over the years in between all of the other stuff we have to do, so we're really excited that it's finally coming to pass. Our communications objectives are pretty straightforward. Rochester's probably the only city around that actually has something like the City Mark. So our goal is to celebrate Rochester, increase community pride, and draw community members together at different engagement opportunities. We will do some promotional activities to increase awareness and engagement, and we're going to kick those off in the coming couple of months, really in May. There's some key moments in time, and you've got some, I'll go through some of the overarching details here. But in May, we'll have a documentary film. We'll also have a commemorative book that will be available for sale through Rochester Public Library. I'll give you more details here in a second. In June, we've got the Flower Fest and the Drone Show and the Row Coast 6x6. In July and August, we've got the Rock Paint Division Partnership. And then in the late summer, early fall, sometime in there, we'll have the community art installation going in. As I was saying, the documentary film is going to be about an hour long. It'll premiere in mid-May, and it'll show at other locations across the city, is our hope, in the coming months and probably through the summer and hopefully into the fall and thereafter. The commemorative book, it's a coffee table book. It'll really celebrate the mark in pictures and stories. We're partnering with the RPL and the Friends and Foundation of the Rochester Public Library in order to manage the sales, and then the proceeds will benefit the Friends and the RPL. The book will be available at City Mark events, other community events, library outreach events, as well as at the Central Library and the branch library locations and online. Flower Fest and the Drone Show, that's the legislation you have before you today. We need to identify a promoter to help us put on the Flower Fest. The Flower Fest will be a market, effectively an arts and crafts and merchandise market that celebrate the mark. We'll have outdoor screens that'll be showing the documentary. We'll have book sales happening there. The evening will end with the City Mark inspired drone show at High Falls. I'm looking forward to seeing the mark in the sky. It'll be neat. And the promoter has been identified, and as soon as you approve the promoter, we'll move forward with the planning. We're going to do a Roco 6x6 partnership. You can see it, it's already up because they're already accepting art for it. They've got a City Mark themed section. City Mark pieces always go really well at the 6x6. I know because I always try to get one, and they're already sold. So we're really excited to partner with 6x6, and we're doing an art center make art party at the Jackson Art Center. And actually, that's this month. So we're going to engage some kids in making some art for 6x6. Then we've got a Rock Paint Division partnership. It's another engagement of youth where Rock Paint Division will create a City Mark themed mural. They'll paint it over several weeks in July and August at the MLK Park fountain and the ice rink, basically the big gray Zamboni wall. It's pretty plain right now. We're going to be capturing content as they paint it, and we'll also celebrate an unveiling once they've got it done. And lastly, the community art installation. This is a piece of art you all approved a couple of years ago, possibly, and it is going to go in on the Sister Cities Bridge, and it's going to highlight the City Mark in sculpture. And that's the overview.
Thanks. I think we'll take questions as part of the first introductory, so I'll open the legislative portion, but can I just make one request, Director Pierce, of you and the council staff, just to make sure that all of these events can get on council members' calendars as soon as possible. It's a lot of great celebration of our city, and I'm sure all of us will want to be to as many as we can. I don't think they're on calendars yet, and so to the dates, to the extent that you know these dates, if you could just work with,
lock in the dates.
You could work with James and Jen, and we can get them circulated. Okay, so we'll start with introductory number 70, which is an item related to what we just talked about. It's authorizing an agreement for the City of Rochester Flower Fest. So questions, we'll start with Councilmember Smith.
Thank you. Can you tell me about the proposal process for how you guys went about selecting the promoter?
Sure. We put out yes, Councilwoman, we put out a request for a proposal about 3 months ago. We received 4 submissions. They were based on, the criteria was on the actual proposal. Because in this RFP, we had 3 very specific criteria for the event. their budget, and their team.
I'm sorry, you said that they had 3.
There were 3 specific criteria that were laid out in the RFP.
And what were the
Part
3?
of the Flower Fest.
Yes.
Was the drone show, the art festival portion, and the showing of the documentary film.
Thank you.
Any further questions on 70? Councilman Martin?
Yes. Who is creating the 60-minute documentary?
We are in the city communications bureau. Nate Miller is on point for it. Bill Schwabacher, and the comms team.
So the comms team is going to film and edit?
We have filmed, and we are currently editing. We've done it over the last 4 years.
Got it. And for the book, is the comms team also putting that together?
Correct.
What involvement is council going to have in putting together these final products? I know we ran into an issue with editing the flag without council input, so I would hate to get to the floor and have to re-edit. So I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to collaborate before items are finalized.
So these pieces are coming together as historical kind of documentaries and just a general overview of the. Well, we can get you copies of it.
Okay.
You can see them.
Yeah, I'm asking for us to be involved and collaborate. We also represent the city. So I think it'd be important to have our voices included in some way. So I hope we can follow up and discuss what that looks like.
Any further questions? Just one question for me, Director Pierce. I assume this has been in the works for a long time. Everything in here is already in the current year budget. There's no additional costs.
Correct.
Okay, great. Then I'll take a motion on instruction number 70.
Move it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Instruction number 71, authorizing an agreement for the 2026 Rochester International Jazz Festival. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Patterson?
Just a general question. Will there be any venues outside of the general? Well, so look, I got clubs and stages in the Northeast. We have historically been left out. What's the plan for our inclusion?
Councilman, I'll have to talk to the promoters and get back to you on that.
Okay.
At the moment, Jazz Fest is centrally located,
Mm-hmm.
and they tend not to, fly too far from the nest, so to speak. But I can make the proper inquiries. And
Okay.
let
Well,
you know.
well, jazz historically was black music. So, what are the black venues that you'll be performing in? Jazz historically was Hispanic music. What are the Hispanic venues that they'll be performing in?
We can get those questions answered by the promoter.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions on 71? If not, I'll take a motion.
Move it.
So moved
Second.
and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
So the motion passes.
How about a roll call?
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
At least until I get an answer.
Councilmember Gruber.
Yes.
Yeah, is Patterson on this committee?
I'm not on it. Damn.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Thank you for your. Thanks for playing goalie, Patrick. Okay, motion passes. No need for a roll
Nice
call.
try,
vote.
buddy.
We will note Patterson's disapproval.
Yeah, it's noted. It's noted for the record. Instruction number 72, authorizing an mandatory agreement for the 2026 Baldwin Richardson Foods Company Frederick Douglass HBCU Football Classic. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm curious about the proposal process for this event.
This RFP process happened before last year's event, and it was a multi-year agreement. So we did go through an RFP process and selected Experience Live events.
Is there any way I can get a copy of? I'm just curious what proposals look like around here.
Sure.
Thank you.
That was a very fast one, so we'll get that one too.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I'd note that in the legislative review meeting, we talked about how this is the last year of the current contract with both, and that includes the promoter, but also the lead sponsor, Baldwin Richardson. So it seems like this is, after this year, there's going to be an opportunity to regroup a little bit and understand what the future of this event is. To the extent that is possible, it would be good to, I think, engage council in that process. Obviously, this event went from kind of a small or organic idea, and it's blossomed into something that's really big and really well received. And associated with that, the costs have blossomed with it. So I think it's important for us to just all get on the same page of what this looks like after this year's event. I'll take a motion in a second on 72.
Move it.
So moved.
Second.
And second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Instruction number 73, a resolution authorizing an exception to the 25-26 debt limit for the Rochester City School District purposes. There are two disclosures for this item, one from Council Vice President Harris and the other from Councilmember Lupien, as they are both employed by the school district. They're only required to disclose this information and they participate in the discussion and the vote. Any questions, comments, or concerns on introduction number 73? I would be remiss to not take a moment to invite Jacob Scott, Chief Scott. Would you mind coming up to the podium for just a moment? Pretty please, since you're here. Sorry to make you get up. Come on. Injury? Oh no. Just so everyone knows, this Jacob Scott is also one of the premier basketball coaches in the Rochester area, so this is particularly shocking to me. You all right?
Oh yeah, I'm here. I'm perpendicular, so I'm blessed. I appreciate it though.
Well, I'm sorry to make you walk and stand. If I had known, I wouldn't have done that.
No, it's okay.
But if you wouldn't mind just sharing some of the highlights of what's happening in the CIP for the school district this year?
Absolutely. One of the things, and we actually have another one right after this one, and I have Tom Casa, who's with me as well. But certainly some of the pieces that we have kind of earmarked for this particular, for this upcoming year.
It seems like the debt limit exception is particularly because of the work that's going to be done to the Lightfoot Art Center.
Yes, pretty much, yes.
Can you just talk about that project for a little bit? What the highlights are?
Yep. So over at Lightfoot, we plan on putting some modernizing the spaces in the gym area, which are very much needed, along with some of the outdoor areas as well, for just for our kids to just have a more safer, more secure space. As families utilize that space a lot. We have our Pop Warner. It's very much used, the track that is over there as well. We certainly need to put some just more attention and more funds into that space as well for our community.
So this includes the playground as well?
Yes.
And I'm assuming that there's great communication between RCSD and City Drives.
Absolutely. So we've been working directly with Dr. Green and her team. We probably meet, if not weekly, bi-weekly, just as we're kind of just talking about the parameters and things of that nature that we need to put in place. I know Councilmember Harris has also been a part of that as well.
Great. Any questions for Chief Scott while he's up here? Okay, I'm sorry for making you walk up here.
No,
and
it's okay.
please heal up.
I plan on it.
All right.
But no, I appreciate it. Not a problem.
Okay. I'll take a motion on 73.
Move it.
It's been moved.
Second.
And seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Instruction number 74, a bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing the issuance of $14,925,000 bonds of said city to finance the cost of improvements to specified city school district buildings. Same subject. There's two disclosures, same disclosures. They can both participate in the discussion and the vote. Any questions or comments on this introductory? If not, I'll take a motion.
Move it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Introduction number 75, a resolution relating to appointments to the Board of Assessment Review. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Yes. Quick question.
Councilmember Martin.
Why is the term just till September 2026?
Anyone from the administration have an answer for that?
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that in writing. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yep. I'll still take a motion on 75, please.
Move it.
It's been moved.
Second.
And seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Introduction number 76, a local law amending the city charter with respect to a compensation policy commission, attendance guidelines for council members, and the salary of members of the city council and the mayor. Before I open it up to questions and comments from my colleagues, I know there's been a lot of concern about this, so I just want to give the context from my perspective. Back in July of last year, we could not make a quorum for a council meeting, which resulted in us not being able to vote on some pretty critical things, including, I think, led by our inability to bond or borrow money for replacement of lead service lines. The delay of a month in the simplest way possible cost taxpayers dollars. It made it more expensive, and it took longer to finish the project. So at that time, here during the meeting and also in follow-up news articles, I proposed an attendance policy. A few months ago, a majority of city council voted to give this body a 25% raise when no other city department was getting a raise of over 3%. That was since rescinded, but at the time, I had proposed putting together, and not just me alone, other people had proposed it too, putting together a compensation committee to take any kind of politics out of setting our pay. What you see before you is just doing the things that I said I was going to do. This is not gotcha legislation. This is not an attempt to control anyone. No one even has to specify, as the legislation is written, why they can't be at a meeting. It is an attempt to make sure that we have proper notification so that we can make a quorum and so we don't have to not vote on things in the future. But perhaps most importantly for me, this legislation is very simply about making sure that we hold ourselves to the same standards that we hold any city employee to, and that frankly all of our constituents are probably held to in their day-to-day jobs. The men and women who plow the streets and who pick up refuse don't get to set their own salary, and they don't get paid if they don't show up. The men and women who put out fires every day in the city don't get to set their own salary, and they don't get paid if they no-show, no-call. And the men and women who work with our babies in the rec centers and libraries don't get to set their own salary and don't get paid if they don't show up. The only thing I'm asking for is that we don't set our own salary outside of a compensation committee, and that we don't get paid if we don't show up. And I didn't think there was anything controversial about that, but apparently there is, and I understand that Councilmember Patterson has asked to hold the legislation, which I'm happy to do if that's what the body wants. Eventually, I am going to put forward this legislation, whether it's today or whether it's at the next meeting. But if holding isn't what people want now, that's fine. If we want to have dialogue about it now, Councilmember Smith, I'm all ears. Councilmember Patterson.
So my request is that the item be held, but that we engage in some dialogue now on it. I am planning on offering some amendments related to this legislation. I've reached out pretty much to everybody. I do believe I've reached out to everyone on council with what my thinking was, and the hope is that the main hope is this: though you've introduced this as one item, you are addressing three issues. So the first item that I'll be looking to introduce is that we look at severing these items. We sever the 3% pay increase as a separate item to be considered. We have the salary commission as a separate item to consider, and that we have the attendance policy as a separate item to consider. though there are those who would say that they're all one thing, they are not one thing, in my opinion. So I believe that we should be considering them all separately. So we'll be getting that amendment from law at some point in time. That's why I'm asking that we hold it. Obviously, you guys won't be acting on it today. So that's just my initial statement to it. So I'll get out the way and let some other folks say some stuff, and hopefully I'll be able to come back around.
Council Vice President.
So I respect your opinion. This is absolute government overreach. It is not my job to police my colleagues that's on government. We are all elected by the people. As such, if you have a problem with anything that any one of us has done, it is not our job to do anything about it other than contact the governing body that oversees what we do, and that's the Attorney General. Write a letter to the Attorney General and make your complaint, because then at this point, when you start enacting laws like this, it becomes political. Then you can, you can skew numbers. Numbers was put out to WXXI that was inaccurate to the public. So how was that redacted, which it wasn't? So I think that this is government overreach. I respect attendance as an official. I know that we're all responsible, but we're responsible to the people, not Mitch Gruber.
Well, since my name was mentioned, I'll just say once again, I have no interest in telling anyone where to be, and it's not about controlling or policing anyone. It is about trying to make sure we make a quorum. And I understand the perspective that this is about letting the voters decide. We had 2 council members last year who announced that they were not running for re-election. And in the last year, it made it substantially more challenging to make a quorum. There is no solution for that happens at the polls. I can't imagine the last time that the city of Rochester could not make a quorum during a full council meeting before July of last year. And it had significant negative impacts on the taxpayers and the citizens of Rochester. If this body feels like it's government overreach to ensure that we have a quorum by making sure there's proper notification, then that's how this body will amend the legislation. That's how it will move. But I will share that many bodies, including several of upstate New York city councils, also have similar attendance policies. I'm happy to share with people Utica, New York's attendance policy, for example, which is a different version of this one. Many bodies have it to make sure that quorums are met.
I can't.
Councilmember Smith.
Councilmember Gruber, I am so offended by this legislation. The process, not the legislation. I'm offended by the process. When we all ran for office, one of the things that our constituents overwhelmingly asked of us was how we intend to work collectively and collaboratively together. This was an example, and the reason why I'm offended is because you are a brilliant man. You understand the dynamics of this council. You understand the things that took place during the last administration. So this feels intentional that you, the only white male in this space, introduced legislation that overwhelmingly impacts Black and brown individuals in a predominantly all-female caucus, and you did not have the audacity or even just the gall to ask any of us our opinion about this. So not even about the legislation, I'm talking about the process. And so I would like Corporation Counsel or whoever is responsible to tell me what the process is for introducing legislation and for including council members in on that process. I do not intend to join the circus that was last year. I was voted in here by my constituents to ensure fair and equitable and transparent government, and this process does not reflect what I stood on when I ran for election. And so I need to be clear as to what the process will be, because for me, I'm letting all of you know on record, if any of you bring forth legislation and you do not include me, you cannot have a conversation with me in the back afterwards. We will only discuss it on the floor and on record. That's the only way we will. And so for me, I need you, the person with the most privilege, who possibly makes the most money out of all of us, to be more respectful of the individuals who don't have that story, who does not have the proximity to power that you have. It is vile, Mitch. And I do not plan on working like that. And so we need to establish as a body how we intend to work. I have gone above and beyond to get to know each and every one of you on my own, despite the things that I've heard. This does nothing for the morale of the group. And I'm very disappointed because I can still consider you a brilliant man. And so I'm curious as to what your thinking was when you did not include the rest of us intentionally. Because I'm here intentionally because I plan on making change for our community.
I appreciate the question. I tried to share it at the beginning of my remarks. These are things that I recognize that these are not things you would have heard as someone who was not on council in July and December of last year. But in July and December of last year, we had meetings where things happened, and I said on the record and reported in news stories afterwards that I intended to introduce an attendance policy and I intended to introduce a compensation committee. And again, if your point is that you don't like the process, I understand, but you also just said that you only want to talk about things on the record. So my question on the record...
I said, Mitch, let's be clear. I said if you write legislation without me, don't write in, I'm just speaking as a black woman, not even as a councilwoman. I don't want no white man getting in no room, making no decisions about me and my future without me being there. I am offended by that. I am offended by the process, and I'm offended by you sitting here acting as if, because I know that you are an emotionally intelligent man. So if you can't understand my anger and my disgust with this process, then that's problematic, Mitch. What I'm saying can only happen on the record is because you started the record when you wrote the legislation without me. So I'm only replying to you on the record. Now, had you had this conversation with me when you walked past me 1,000 times, one-on-one in my office, even if we don't agree about it, you should have still asked me my opinion. You did not. And you, once again, being the man with the most privilege on this council, should be more mindful of your position.
I appreciate the comments. I also think it is a privilege of this council to be able to set our own salaries and get paid for not showing up to work.
I can't get to the legislation because I can't get past the process. And you sound like Charlie Brown will want to me. I'm talking about the process and how we're going to engage as a body moving forward, Mitch. Don't create a narrative by trying to make it seem like we're trying to create our own salaries. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the process in which you failed to engage a majority-minority council around something that directly impacts our lives.
So
you and your privilege, not being mindful of that.
I want to jump in here just on this question of process, because City Council is a public body, and so deliberations about legislation are to be had by the body in public. The same goes with the committees. And so while, yes, there's going to be correspondence and communication behind the scenes as legislation is drafted before it gets to referral day and before the president refers that to a committee, any substantive discussion and debate on an item does have to be done at an open public meeting in public, and these committee meetings are the means to do that. So from a process standpoint, the process is that proposed legislation goes to the council president on referral day, it gets referred to a committee, the committee debates that in the committee sessions. This is the process. What the process is preliminary to that, leading up to how draft legislation gets in the president's hands, is an internal decision of City Council, but it can't involve a majority of a committee having substantive deliberations on the legislation behind closed doors. So I just want to be careful as we're talking about this, right? This is the process, and the process is a public one.
You're talking about after introducing it, which is she's asking for conversation before that happens. Yeah. And if that is not allowed, this body is extremely out of compliance.
No, that is allowed. That is allowed.
Yep.
So, a couple of things. Let me just say this publicly, that I feel, this council, this body, this current council, all 9 members that are sitting up here right now, I think we've got on the right foot for the most part at the start of the year. We had a great couple months of work, had an opportunity to caucus around non-legislative items, and I felt really great about where we were. I think while this may have thrown a wrench into some of that feeling, this is an opportunity for us as a group to have those discussions. So I want to put something into the atmosphere. And I'm not saying I want this, but I want to put this in the atmosphere. So 4 years ago, the first round when I became council president, we changed one of the rules to say that any member of council can introduce legislation. Before, it used to go through the office of the president. I'm not saying I want that responsibility. I'm just saying that that's a thing that we changed, and we decided to change to allow council members the opportunity to introduce legislation. Now, in saying that, I think we can come up with and work on what are our rules of engagement amongst each other if it's different than that. But every member of council does have the autonomy to introduce legislation, and it's their prerogative as the person who's making the legislation to engage members of this body. So I think if we are to, beyond this moment, if we are to move forward differently, I think we can have that discussion about making sure that every member of this body, if that's what the desire is at least notified. I'll make my personal commitment that that's the direction I'd like to go in, because I think that a lot of this gets resolved through communication. Again, I believe Councilmember Smith said this, even if there was disagreement on what was being introduced, it's still the members' prerogative to introduce it if they want to, but at least the conversation, I think, is what I heard from members of this body was a frustration point. So I just offer that for consideration. I think that I also agree with holding this item, spending some time to understand where the rub is beyond the fact that there was maybe a perceived lack of communication. But if there's actual amendments or if there's other things we want to do with this, I'm open to that discussion. At the end of the day, for me, I think that every member up here, just my perception, at least on the attendance piece of it, it's a matter of self-accountability. That's where the rub is for me, and making sure that someone who is going to be, whether it's the clerk, chief of staff, myself, someone is notified when we're not going to make quorum, because it is a challenge for us. And I think we can figure out a path towards us being self-accountable in that space. So, but I do ask that this also be held.
My hand's been up.
Councilman Martin?
So I have a few questions for law. And HR is here. So are council members considered hourly or salaried employees?
We'll get back to you in writing.
Right. So my research says salaried employees, right? But I just wanted to clarify that, and you can get back to me in writing. So it is my understanding, looking at New York State employment law, that you cannot dock pay for salary workers unless under very narrow specific circumstances. So can you point to the basis within New York State law that you relied upon to put forth this legislation? Because I am concerned that it may be illegal how it's written.
That's a question to law, not to Councilmember Gruber. Yeah, we can get back to you in writing.
That can also be got back. Sounds good. So, and then I'll turn to, actually, one last question for law. Can you let us know how long you had been working on this with Councilmember Gruber?
I have done no work on this with Councilmember Gruber. This, I believe, came to the law department while I was away on vacation. So sometime within the last 2 weeks, we've had eyes on it.
Okay. And so Councilmember Gruber, you mentioned that Councilmember Smith is new, so that may be the excuse for not reaching out to her. But I've been here for 4 years. Can you talk to me about when you started working on the legislation?
I started researching other attendance policy legislation after the July meeting that I mentioned before. And I looked at a bunch of other cities, had conversations with other folks in other municipalities, and I was pretty close to putting something forward. And then December happened, when 5 members of council decided to not propose legislation but amend legislation. So there was actually no dialogue around it. Amend legislation around compensation, and at that point, I shelved the attendance policy work that I had done, and I intentionally bracketed these two things together at the beginning of this year, and I would have liked, the honest truth is that I would have liked to have it in February. It wasn't ready by referral day. And actually, to Councilmember Smith's point before, I recognize that I probably didn't make this very well, but I did not want to submit this as a tweener. I did not want to submit this as something that was last minute. I wanted to submit it at a time where we would have plenty of opportunity to dialogue. And so I waited until referral day for March and put it in.
So based on what you're saying, you've had at least 9 months to call any of us, to stop us in the hallway, to send an email to ask what our thoughts are, and you chose not to.
I had conversations with plenty of people.
So did you have conversations with me?
I did not.
Right. And would you agree that this law effectively would affect my working conditions and the terms and conditions of my employment?
I don't think this law affects people's working conditions. I think this law impacts our the need to notice when we can't be at a council meeting that requires a vote.
And I think that's the problem, right? A lot of it has been through your very narrow lens. Everything you've said has been I. And you've missed out on the opportunity to talk to each of us to determine what accessibility issues may exist for the council members who may have missed more meetings than they would have liked to. Did you reach out to any of them to understand what may have been going on? No.
No, I didn't.
Right. So how can you purport to fix an issue without talking to people?
Because my position about this legislation is not about the 9 people on the dais here. It is about the taxpayers and the voters in this community. It is about the people who were ultimately hurt by us not being able to repair lead service lines faster in July because we did not have a quorum. It is about the people that we serve. It is about the employees of City Hall who watch as we give ourselves a 25% raise while no one in City Hall gets more than a 3% raise. I'm not thinking about the 9 of us. That's correct.
Correct, and it's obvious because you make 6 figures already in your full-time job, and so this is extra money for you. And it's not about the legislation, it's about the process, and it's about your very narrow lens, as Stanley said, as a white man with so much privilege. So you don't even get to see the impact that it has on others. You didn't give anyone the opportunity, again, to talk about the barriers, to even offer up suggestions. Maybe everyone would have been okay with the legislation if they were able to say, hey, can we use Zoom as an option? Hey, can we do this? Can we move the time back so that people can show up on time? You don't know you don't know because you didn't ask, you had 9 months to prepare and you didn't ask anyone. Everything, like Stanley said, has been I and me. And then you're trying to use this storytelling of, the taxpayers also asked us to work collaboratively together because they witnessed the shrine circus that was last administration. I'm not here for it, Mitch. Like, I'm so upset I can't even talk because you sitting here and you so disconnected that you don't even understand how impactful it is for others. And as a woman who's worked in spaces where I haven't felt seen, heard, or valued, I was voted here overwhelmingly. So every opportunity I am to be in space and to offer up my opinion, don't take that opportunity away from me.
I don't think I'm disconnected to the city employees who reached out after the December meeting and couldn't believe that this body was giving themselves a 25% raise. I may be disconnected to the other 8 people on this dais, and I'm more than willing to change that by coming to any meeting I'm invited to. My job, I was elected just like we all were to represent the people of this community, not to think about how the 9 of us ultimately get along.
So, and I just have a few more questions. So in drafting this legislation, did the people help you write it? Right, exactly.
I got a lot of feedback from a lot of people.
Except the people it impacts, got it. And the last thing I will say is I think this is ultimately an opportunity to propose certain things. I do think it's important that chairs who are deeply disconnected from this body, as we're seeing here, should have some kind of training around what it means to be a leader. I would request that. I'm having all kinds of issues around being a member of Mitch's committee at this point, just recognizing how he chose to move. So I think it's important that that opportunity is offered to Mitch and anyone else in leadership who may be interested in taking some kind of training around what it means to lead and include the voices of impacted folks. The other thing I will say is when the changes to schedules happen, not all of us are notified. I will say I was on the Budget and Finance Committee last year. That meeting and that date was moved, and I learned about that change maybe 3 days before I was supposed to attend a meeting. No one asked me, would that work for me? No one asked me how that would impact my existing work schedule. No one asked me anything. And that is how a lot of these meetings are created. We also see that with the schedule for the budget hearings, where some council members have had to miss it. You didn't ask me, no one asked me, hey, Stanley, are you available at this time? Hey, do you have any suggestions about how this would be accessible for you? None of these questions were asked. So in effect, you create a standard that only people who create the calendar can access and can meet. So the combination of all of this is very problematic. Again, I think this is an opportunity to talk about processes, make sure everyone's voices are heard. I would love to create a policy that has input from literally everyone. I believe everyone has something to offer. And the last thing I will say is to James and Jen, our Chief of Staff and our Deputy Chief of Staff. I do take issue with communicating on behalf of council without including council, and I do think that is a process that needs to be adjusted. I'm all for transparency, openness, but when you communicate information that many of us are like, this isn't accurate, but you just boldly go out there and communicate on our behalf, it is deeply, deeply problematic. So we have so many problems in this body, and I think it's at every different level, including our staff and including the body. So I personally would like to vote it down. However, if Councilmember Patterson and our Vice President are leading an effort to amend, I have been reached out to, and I do want to say thank you. It really felt affirming to have my voice heard. So I want to say thank you for that. So I would support that process, and I thank you for your leadership. And all I think a lot of us are asking is to have our voices heard. Just because we're not in the majority with Mitch does not mean that our voices should be thrown away when we're shaping policies that impact us.
I have questions.
Please.
Actually, more of a comment, I suppose. Kind of echoing some of the comments that I've already heard. Mitch, Councilmember Gruber, you say that this is just about making sure that council members attend meetings. But even the way you introduced it is so very obviously shaming and punitive. If you really wanted to address the reasons, you would have asked what the reasons were that people weren't making meetings. When Bridget Monroe joined this body, she had a job that ended at 5 o'clock. She asked for the meetings to be moved, and they were not. I get out of work at 3:45 and have to pick up my daughter and run over here, so I'm always going to be late. We've asked for the time to be moved. I have been absent from a council meeting because of a vacation, while the president got to move a council meeting because of his vacation. A meeting has been moved because Mitch hasn't been able to attend. So it is really about who is creating the calendar. And since COVID, I have been asking and begging for Zoom capability. First, it was the open meetings law. That is not an issue. The school district has Zoom attendance. The Monroe County Legislature has Zoom attendance, and we should have Zoom attendance for the public so that they can have more access to our meetings. So I'm actually looking at this as a really positive opportunity to open that conversation back up on the record, because we all want to be here. There are some barriers, especially women, especially mothers. Let's make this job accessible for people. You talk about employees, right? Employees work till 5 o'clock. So let's make this meeting accessible if that's the goal, not punishing people because they can't get here.
If I may, just for a moment, because I was brought up, when I knew that I was going to have a conflict, and actually I was one of 2 members of council that month that had a conflict, I engaged everyone to understand if the meeting could be moved or not. Now, conversely, since it was brought up, I wasn't even notified that you would be gone on vacation during that month. So I think there's an opportunity still, but I just want to make sure that that was clear, that I notified the entire body that it was an issue for me, and I worked to move the date. Had I knew back in July that we weren't going to be able to make quorum, I would have done the same thing.
I am fairly certain that I notified you about the vacation. Maybe you didn't understand that I wouldn't be at the meeting, but.
Sorry, but I don't have any recollection or proof of that. And I would never throw any other council member under the bus for not being able to make the meeting. If I knew that we weren't going to make quorum, we would have pivoted back in July.
Which is the exact intention of the legislation. It is not to police where people are. No one has to tell why they can't be at a council meeting. I believe Councilmember Lupien that everybody wants to be here. I have no doubt about that. I understand that there are barriers. At the end of the day, it is about making sure that we all know, or at least the presiding officer of a meeting, be it the city clerk at a public hearing or the council president or a committee chair, can know if they will be able to make quorum or not. That is the only intention of the meeting. I recognize, or of the legislation, I recognize that that is not how it is being received by people. And if this body wants to vote down an attendance policy, and if this body wants to vote down any other elements of the legislation, they will do so. But for now, I'm going to respect the wishes and hold the legislation.
I just wanted to, so I'm hearing you say it's about noticing, and I get that. But why not take the opportunity to collaborate with council to make it more accessible? Why limit it when we have the opportunity to actually make sure that we are all as able to attend as possible? That's what I want to get out of this legislation. I want to take something that has divided council and figure out how to unite it, because I was so hopeful at the caucus. I was like, oh, okay, we might actually be able to work together. And this dropped a bomb on us. And I think let's use it to actually come back together and figure out how we can collaboratively make this as accessible for all of us.
I'm holding introductory number 77 and moving on to introductory number 93, a resolution for the purpose of a home rule message regarding state legislation in relation to granting retroactive membership in the New York State and local police and fire retirement system to Daniel Rizzo. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Council Vice President Harris.
Councilmember Gruber, can we have administration give us a little bit of overview on this, please?
So I can jump in on this one, because this came by way of Senator Cooney's office, I believe, and I think this is just correcting retirement system issues. But if the administration has more to say than that.
Anything to add?
Thank you.
Okay. I'll take a motion in a second.
Move it.
It's been moved.
I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if that question was answered by the president in terms of the administrative error that was referenced in here.
I certainly have not. I can actually answer it, because I was looking through the information that came in from Senator Cooney's office. We did very similar legislation in the last council cycle. But in this instance, what happened, the city employee had joined the New York State pension system, or had started working, rather, in the state of New York in a job that was eligible for the pension system. His prior employer was in the city of Rochester, did not enroll them in the pension system, so they were eligible to be a member of the pension system as a Tier 2 employee. They started working for the city of Rochester, at which point they were enrolled in the pension system. And so the oversight was identified. And so now they need to do state legislation, which requires home rule from this body and the city of Rochester to then go to Albany to rectify the situation so that they can be put back into the pension system based on their original hire date. And I want to say it was with the County of Monroe, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, it was. I read all of that in the legislation. I guess I'm just curious, how can an error be as far back as 2009 and no one noticed it, including the employee themselves? It feels.
I don't know, because it was done in a different, with a different government and a different agency. But I do believe that this has been something that they've been trying to rectify for a number of years.
Got it.
And
Okay.
so we're just following the process under home rule with the state. And Senator Cooney's office has been speaking with the city, And I know HR and the Corp Counsel's office have been working with them to try and move this forward.
Got it. Thank you.
Council Vice President?
Just a quick question. Is there any way that you guys can do an audit to make sure that that's the only employee that was affected by that?
We'll respond in writing on that.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll take a motion on 93.
Move it.
So moved.
Second.
And second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That concludes the Budget, Finance, and Governance Committee.